Engage. Here we go. Talking about Mad Idolatry, the season finale, and the 12th episode instead of the 13th episode of the first season of the Orville. Guys, it's like a little heartbreaking because this show has been so satisfying and has sometimes been like the chaser I needed after a terrible episode of Discovery. Not that they were all terrible, but there were some that were. And it sort of was able to bring my spirits up in the way Star Trek as an aspirational show always did. And so I had this show after, I had gotten that gut punch from Discovery, and sometimes they were great gut punches. But how are you guys feeling? This is it. This is it, guys. Kat? Bittersweet?
It is bittersweet. I kind of wanted more out of a cliffhanger feeling, I think. I wanted to feel, and it did feel sort of, I got a little of the romance, and I got a little of the nice commentary, and nice theme. I liked it. It was cool. I got lots to say, but...
Sad?
A little.
Yeah? Sonia?
Yeah. It was very inventive, so I enjoyed it quite a lot. I understand why it had to end the way it did. I was sad that it did, actually. In terms of the relationships.
Yeah.
But I thoroughly enjoyed this one. And we don't have to wait that long for the next season, do we?
Like about a year.
No.
Yeah.
I thought they were doing it for us.
No,
us especially. They pushed it up to January.
Well, the thing is, Star Trek managed to realize that the show was doing well, got greenlit, and quickly they're moving into season 2. The Orville, they are taking a bit more time to get things back on. What I've heard is that it's a September start for season 2 of the Orville, like a traditional season.
Well, that's a little long. That's a little long.
That's
long. I mean, it's no Game of Thrones long, but it's long.
Or what about, the Star Wars 2 years in between?
It used to be, yeah. We have to wait 2 whole years, and even now we've got to wait 2 years even for the story to continue. Even though we do get these annual Star Wars movies.
Well, so maybe
Orville wins again.
Like that,
Orville wins again.
Right? I mean, maybe we don't know. They might give us better teasers. They
Maybe.
might have more, and
Well, because here's the real ass chapper. There is an episode sitting in the can that we could watch, but we can't.
An online petition.
Right?
Online petition.
To give us a season 1.5 of one single episode?
Well, okay, but do we know why? Do we know why they...
Okay, here's the thing. In case you don't know, there were 13 episodes in the Orville's first season, which is pretty standard for a half season. Buffy's first season is 13 episodes because it's a half season. They're often called mid-season replacements. And so you make them to see if maybe this show will go well, or you make them to put in the place of a show that got canceled. 13 episodes is a pretty common network number. But you'll notice we only got 12. And that's because about a month ago, Fox decided to pull out episode 12 and bump it into season 2, making episode 13, Mad Idolatry, into episode 12 of season 1. Now, there is discussion that this 13th episode, 12th, 13th episode, the sort of Matt Smith episode, that is sort of 12 but sort of 13, it apparently might have Patrick Stewart in it.
Do we know who directed?
Wait, Patrick Stewart?
Yeah.
This was 10 years...
No, Picard might actually be...
No, how could it be Picard?
Not actual Picard.
Oh,
but but yeah. That would be a pretty
That'd be
sweet...
hilarious.
That'd be pretty sweet because right now, Patrick Stewart is also telling everyone that if Quentin Tarantino got to do the next Star Trek movie, he would totally come back as Picard. So, there's a whole lot of Patrick Stewart talk in relations to Star Treks right now, so it's an exciting time. But... let's dive into the episode we did get as our finale. Not a cliffhanger, which, the first season finale of the original series and the first season finale of TNG, both not cliffhangers. So I guess it's in a bold tradition of just doing an episode and leaving it. I enjoyed the hell out of this episode.
Yeah,
I thought it was pretty darn cool. We got a lot of...
eh?
It was very smart. I thought the interdimensional element was really quite cool.
Loved that element.
The comedy, I thought, was really nicely woven through, and the emotional stakes of what was going on between Ed and Kelly, I thought, was all quite solid.
Yes.
So let's start with the emotional stakes.
I loved it.
Yeah?
I did, and I loved, can we please talk about Bortus in the beginning, and that whole sort of really...
Oh my God.
How cute it is, because I often wondered the whole, I'm off duty, I'm just dropping by, this is a social call, and I love that, And okay, I thought it was pretty funny, you know, with like Scott Grimes being like jammied up,
Yeah.
and then yeah, the whole like, hey, want to come in for a drink, you know, kind of.
Yeah, I love that Lamar was just like wide open. You can't see below here, and you're like, I mean, all that
maybe
cleave
that's
on
cool.
her. Maybe he's just like hanging out.
And maybe it's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that's normal then.
Could
I
be.
don't know. No idea.
But I gotta say, Jay Lee did one of the funniest things I have ever seen him do in this episode. When he makes the offer and then just violently shakes his head. Oh my god. That was some solid physical comedy that I did not know Jay Lee had in him. It was good.
I'm really surprised. I thought it was great. I thought it was adorable. And then I also just loved I love Mortis. I'm sorry. I love them so much. The whole Mocklin tradition and how cute that was. Like, I really want to learn.
Yeah. Oh, Mortis's poo drink.
The poo drink. It does not leave you. That was so awesome.
It does leave you. It
yeah.
actually does leave you.
Oh my god.
It was so good.
I enjoyed that immensely. And then I like laughed and screamed out loud when that blade went right through his hand.
Yes.
I enjoyed that so much. That whole opening sequence, like, to me, the Orville does best when it brings you in that cold open with something lovely and funny and fun, and then gets into gear and gives you an episode that is just bold, great Star Trek, and then peppers in the odd funny moment that fits. Because this episode did that beautifully.
Yeah. And it was beautiful, like unpredictable humor. Like the kind of, was it Seth MacFarlane who wrote this?
Yes.
This was one of MacFarlane's,
Well, he just is. I've never seen him write like this before. Maybe I just haven't seen enough of him. But he writes, such witty and unpredictable
Absolutely.
scenes.
And and compared to what he had done with his pilot, when you look at the work he's done on this finale, leaps and bounds, improved and found what the Orville is. Computer?
So Derek is saying that he thinks that this episode of The Orville was a combo of the Next Generation episode Lessons, where Picard has a relationship with Commander Nella Darren, and the Voyager episode Blink of an Eye.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So strong, right?
And it also kind of gives you the outside version of Inner Light, where it's like,
absolutely.
Isaac had this experience that we see nothing of.
Yeah.
Unlike in Blink of an Eye, where the Doctor goes down and he comes back up, and you're like, he was there for 3 years, and he like got to know a couple things. You find out the Doctor had a son.
That was weird too. I often wondered about that.
About that.
But also the same at the time, right? Because they were also spinning out a sequence. It was a totally different quantum reality, so that was also a parallel to Blink of an Eye.
Yeah. The thing that I enjoyed in this episode more than Blink of an Eye was the fact that they actually got, in every act, to go down and interact with the people of the planet.
I absolutely loved that. I loved that, and it was so natural. What I loved is that they didn't intend to like make contact. They were trying to respect the whole, like, what was it, the cultural contamination,
which is their prime directive.
That's right, their prime. But it was so funny the way they were like, oh, the fashion police.
Yes,
we are the fashion police. We gotta go. This gotta go. It was so funny. It was so funny. I love it.
Yeah, and the humor in it didn't take away from the stakes, which sometimes has happened, or especially early in the Orville. And I feel like getting to watch Kelly go down there and save that girl when they're in the Bronze Age, and then come back down and say and reveal herself to the Pope, basically, was a brilliantly machinated moment, because you had the Pope who was like, yep, okay, the thing we need to do is tell the people, and then the bishop just like, nope. Like, it felt so exactly what would have happened in the Renaissance.
I felt like Richard Burton should have played the Pope, basically. It was it was super intense.
It's like Borgias. It's the Borgias.
Yes, it was. Yeah. It was very, very... Yeah.
Computer?
Jeff is saying that to be good Star Trek, you have to be good at showing crew downtime.
That's true.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
And this episode had some really great downtime because we were watching 11 days as the planet lived 700 years in another dimension.
But I also love that... Oh, sorry, I cut you off.
No, go for it.
But I also love the downtime, the 11 days. Like, I love it when they're like, well, what are we going to do for 11 days? And that tiny look between, like, Ed and Kelly, like... You know, and
we're
you're
gonna
like,
romance.
Exactly. It is so cute. It was fun.
Yeah, it was really lovely, and that really brought us the closure from the first from the very first episode, where you're really hoping, and especially after Derulio shows up and sort of exonerates the infidelity and turns it into something where Ed might be more willing to revisit the relationship, and to be able to watch them kind of get there,
Yeah.
and then have it taken away.
But it's not that
just so good.
I have to say this. This is really cool because I really love how he's developed her character, Kelly's character, because, you know, even in the past one, it's like she has these like almost HR insights. She's amazing at team building. She has really good insights to people and what's good for them. And what I love about her character is that even when it comes to her romance, she's like, I'm not good for this, your command, and I have to respect that, and I loved that. I just got goosebumps.
Well, Kelly is the best captain on the ship.
She's awesome.
Like,
She's amazing.
it's great that Ed is the captain and all, but really, Kelly is the one who makes all the best choices as a leader. You know, Ed makes the odd, like, bold, excellent move, but really, as a leader, it's Kelly who's making this happen. And I do like that it's not one chair or 3 chairs with one in the center. It is 2 chairs, one beside each, and that
you know what?
really
That's true.
Yeah.
it makes a pretty big difference in the balance of the show, because there's never been a Star Trek that was about two people equally.
Right.
It was about 3, or it was about 4, or it was about 7, and this one is about 2.
Yeah.
In a really cool way.
Yeah, it's really, I love the way I just really enjoyed it. I loved the dynamic between the two of them. And I was so kind of bummed. That's the thing, though, at the end where I was like, no.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the Cheers thing.
Yes.
Where if both characters recognize that they want to be together, then the show's over.
It's like, you know, Crusher and Picard, or, you know, Troy and Riker, or, you know, Kirk and 7 million people from different planets.
Computer?
Jeff says that in terms of the captaining, that he's a little bit Kirk and she's a little bit Picard, by his estimation.
I like that. I
mean,
like that.
except that she is better at sleeping with colorful aliens. So
that's true.
Yeah, so she kind of gets both Picarding and Kirking down.
Maybe it's like a horoscope of captains, and like, you know, she's like a Picard with Kirk rising.
There you go, Picard
like
Kirk rising.
Yeah, I like that.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
We've got sort of a Kirk with Archer happening a little bit with Mercer.
He's a Karcher.
He's a Karcher. Yeah, and I like that they acknowledged that they were going into uncharted space the next day.
I love that, and they were hungover.
And then they were just wrecked. And even the cut that they had into Kelly just killing that pint of water was so great.
I love it.
And it also gives that moment of cultural contamination context, because she was not at 100%. When she made those decisions, the way she was moving was probably slow. Like, everything about what was happening on that planet when Kelly contaminated that culture was not peak Kelly.
Right.
And I thought that was another interesting moment where a character that could be given flaws, like the ones that Lamar has, or the ones that so many characters...
Even
like
Laura, Like anyone,
You know, a character that could have flaws... They're kind of taking all of Grayson's flawed moments and saying, oh, but it's because of this. Oh, but it's because of that. It's like they are trying to make her the perfect paragon of captaincy. And then when, for a plot, you need something to happen, they take away a bit of her ability. And so it's like, oh, this hangover is what makes her do this thing that she shouldn't have done. And then these pheromones make her do this thing that maybe she didn't want to do. And so it's interesting that when she fails at something, it's an outside force. It's not her own failure directly.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
That is also kind of a Kirky thing.
Yeah.
Weirdly.
Yeah, I mean, the fun thing about Kirk is that he's actually only ever been with a few women on the show. And he's, like, obsessed with certain old flames of his. And this idea of Kirk being a womanizing, like, alien, just... marksman, Lech, is sort of a construct of everyone's remembering the show.
It's true.
When you watch it, you're like, oh no, that relationship was kind of there just... It's like Conscience of the King is one where it seems like he's really trying to get into this girl's pants, and you realize, no, he's just trying to investigate a tyrant and murderer. And you're like, oh, okay. So
it's a stratagem.
It's a stratagem, exactly.
and the same thing, even like when he has that, that his ex, the crazy ex, comes up and he's like, yes, we had that relationship. And then she's like, oh, hey, let's transplant bodies. And then that's not his fault. So, hey, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
memories.
It's true.
Memories. It's all memories, people.
Now, let's get into the, construction of this time dilation element. Because it really is what allows this episode to reflect back our Earth culture at us. And the idea of mad idolatry and the fact that this episode is essentially an atheist's wet dream, it reminds us that everything happening in the Middle East and everything happening during the Dark Ages and cave drawings from the Neolithic era, all of this stuff goes back to superstition and myth. And to see at the final moment where these amazing characters from ostensibly the Orville's future, like where the Orville's technology could get to, as they step out of this incredible, Borg-looking homeworld, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
As they come, and they just sort of materialize on the bridge and begin to wax poetic about superstition and myth. And how the reason
and how it's a phase.
Yeah, how it's all a phase.
Yeah.
It's interesting how the woman of the duo says to Kelly, you have to have more faith in science and logic. So that was a cute little way of saying
loved.
it.
Yeah.
What I love though is okay. So I mean, without talking about faith in general or whatever, I'm just saying the word faith to me, as a human being, as somebody who has hopes, dreams, aspirations, regardless of whether they are logical or spiritual or scientific or whatever, I just have to have faith, in general. It's just in general, not in any one deity or whatever, but in general. I love that they remind us of that word. You know what I mean? Of that, and I also just loved that. In a sense that when we cling to anything, it doesn't matter what it is, we become limited. And I loved that the way they described it, without pointing fingers or anything, was essentially that this was a natural thing of our evolution. It is no one's fault. And once we shed that, we'll stop being anchored to how we define, our lives, and we will be ready then to do things like, solve the quantum theory that lets us teleport or whatever, or change our energy, or I have no idea what. We have no idea, but I don't know, I just love that idea from a creative standpoint.
Yeah, and it's interesting that Star Trek has always been about leaving behind superstition and myth and believing in what your senses allow you to believe. And the idea that which can be asserted without evidence must be dismissed without evidence, because it's only the things that have evidence that can get you into space. Believing you can go to the moon doesn't do it. You need to build something using the scientific method and trial and error, and that's how you do great things as a people. And the thing I loved was that the two people that showed up on the Orville were both people of color. And I was like, yes, we saw a bunch of ignorant white people for the whole first 1400 for the first 2100 years. And then it's people of color on this ship that show up, and it's like, oh right, because when all of humanity interbreeds, we're essentially gonna just look like Brazilians. What a Brazilian looks like is kind of the median of what all the colors bleeding into one looks like. Gingers kind of disappear. Blonde people sort of disappear. We all sort of become what those two people who showed up on the Orville looked like. And I thought that was a really cool indication of people from every continent getting along on this planet.
I also loved that it wasn't a stab at anything. It was just funny considering Truck It or Wreck It, but I love that she was like, you have to have more faith in discovery. And I was like,
yeah.
What is she saying?
More faith in discovery.
What is she actually saying? Is she talking to me?
Yeah. I thought that was a very interesting double entendre, because it's one thing when these shows happen at the same time and they don't know about each other. But by the time they got to the final episode of this, they knew plenty about how Star Trek Discovery was being handled. And if Brendan Braga was directing the episode, watching someone say you have to have more faith in Discovery, you can bet
it was there for a reason.
that was there for a reason. And plus,
Reason and logic.
all we're going to have in the new year is Discovery. So
we have to have more faith in
we
it,
need
guys.
to, yeah.
That's the message. So the Orville is extending a laurel.
And to be fair, mapping out the trajectory of episodes of Star Trek Discovery, with them starting out like goram terrible, turning into something kind of neat and special, and then the last 2 episodes of Discovery being really, truly great Star Trek. I feel like we might have a great new half season of Discovery coming our way, and let's just never watch the first 4 episodes of Discovery again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I find that visually the Orville is set up in a way that it's much more delightful, much more, and almost every episode. I'm comparing it to Discovery now, but this one in particular, the last time when we see the last incarnation of that planet, it's
Captivating.
Yeah. And you can't tell what it looks like. It looks like it's like an orb, and then you think, oh, it's got this membrane around it, but it looks like a game, but it also looks like the inside of a computer, and yet it's beautiful
with these incredible superstructures extending out of oh my god, it was just such a cool piece of production design.
It was very cool. And at the same time, when you're watching, you're like, this feels nostalgic. This feels familiar.
Well, because
I like
the
this.
glowing white outfits really reminded me of Jor-El.
Thank you.
Right?
Okay, that is exact. I was like, what?
Straight up Marlon Brando, Jor-El, 1979.
Totally.
Yes,
Superman.
That's
Yeah,
Yes.
it was very cool. And the idea that these people had gotten to that like Kryptonian level of technology
That's right.
was just like the dense subtext of
It'd
what
be
was
really
going on
funny
in
if
that.
it was. And did we ever find out what it was called? And then all of a sudden they find, and then it's like, and then it is Krypton.
Yeah, and then it explodes, and one
explodes,
baby
and,
escapes.
One baby goes to Earth, and it's like, Kelly, what? What the hell?
That's amazing. I wish.
That would be
Oh,
weird.
if it had been a 2-parter, we might have found out things from Isaac.
Well, it's interesting
Can we
because
talk about what-
when Isaac was volunteering to go to the surface, in my head, I was working out the act structure of the episode, and I was like, shit, we could be coming up on a cliffhanger, and it's just gonna bang, leave you there. Whereas in blink of an eye, you could tell that you were only in the second act when the doctor gets sent down,
Right.
and you're like, okay, so he's gonna come back up.
Yeah.
But the place that they set that last moment of Isaac going away, and maybe we get him back,
Or
maybe we don't.
It felt like a sacrifice.
Yeah.
It felt like we would have to wait. We would have to wait to find out, and it would be one of those like, is one of the crew going to come back?
Yeah.
Will they?
Yeah. And then, I mean, it's a little bit of a disappointment from an emotional level when you're like, oh, there he is, and he has not changed in 700 years. But it's a very Star Trek thing to do, because I don't think we ever hear the Doctor talk about the different teams on that planet, that he was rooting for one and not the other.
It's true. And the thing is, too, like, it's a very Isaac thing, because remember, he still thinks he's, like, superior to everybody in the whole multiverse. So that's for me. I was just like, oh, okay, that's cute.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if 700 years with those people leaves any kind of impact on him, or if by the beginning of the second season of the Orville, is he just like still petting Grimes? Like
that's true.
That's one thing that's missing from Discovery: someone who will never die.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to someone who will pet somebody else.
Yeah.
Oh no, there's somebody.
The Doctor.
They can find somebody.
But yeah, because nobody knew how long Odo was going to live on Deep Space Nine. And Voyager, of course, had, Kes, who was going to die in 7 years.
Right.
And also a Borg who had...
7 or 9.
Yeah, who had an interesting lifespan at least. And then there was the Doctor, who was going to live ostensibly forever. And then Data, who, even in Time Zero... I'm pretty sure his head is 700 years older than his body, right?
Well, what about
that never
somebody
affects anything.
Curzon, in
Yeah.
Discovery?
Oh,
we have like that opportunity still to bring that in, possibly.
Yeah, we could.
Right? Like, and that would be that kind of infinite.
May never die kind of character.
Yeah, like
that's
that.
true.
It'd be interesting to see what they do with that, because that is something that's it's been part of every Star Trek.
Yeah, I wonder what Saru's lifespan is like. You would think people who are hunted and like prey would have short lifespans so that they can, like, as quickly as possible reproduce.
I think he just changes from, like, Abe Sapien to Saru to, like, The Shape of Water.
Oh my god, when does he turn into the Shape of Water merman? I want to see that. Oh, so good.
Sorry, I had to.
Oh, Doug Jones. You're excellent. You're still, like, my favorite part of that show.
Totally, absolutely.
That's a beautiful scene in with him and Hellboy. And when the love song, but anyway, he was fantastic as Abe.
He's magical.
Yeah. It's Kelly and Ed all over. It's
yeah, it'll be interesting to see in season 2 what happens with Kelly and Ed's relationship. Is this something that they can keep dangling at us? Because they've been dangling it all season long. This idea of Ed and Kelly, are they going to get back together? How could they? What would it take to get over that? And they've already found that. But now the trick would be finding a way for Ed and Kelly to not compromise the command.
Right.
Which would almost be Kelly getting her own command.
Yeah, Kelly getting her own command, or another love interest coming on board.
Yeah, because
for him.
This isn't
something
one
like
of those,
that. Something like that.
This isn't one of those shows where they can do that. See, on TNG, for example, Riker and Deanna could be together, but it would have made sense if either one of them had sacrificed the relationship for the mission or for whatever it was in the episode. For somehow I can't see Ed and Kelly wanting to do that for each other. Although because they wouldn't. I can't. It's just not that kind of show.
But he did. He almost did today. That's the thing. I mean, today. Yeah. Today. This very minute, people. Nobody.
Well, he did,
he almost lost
his job.
That's right.
But that's what I mean. I can't imagine that happening on one of the more serious shows. Mm-hmm. So you're right. I think she'll have to get her own command, and maybe, or maybe they'll just stay friends for the whole time.
Or guys, I mean, maybe they'll get knocked up. I don't know. You don't know.
That would be interesting. Because they did have, like, 33 days to hang out. Maybe, somebody got pregnant.
Maybe. I'm just saying, like, that. I mean, then co-parenting while piloting. I mean.
Although I feel like the only way that relationship could work, given the given the restrictions we were just handed, it would be if Ed gets busted down to commander.
Oh, yeah.
And Kelly gets a promotion.
And I just thought of Worf and Jadzia. Mm-hmm. And they did. It was a serious show, and he did compromise. Yeah. He didn't compromise on one of those episodes. He did. He went back for her, and he let the mission fall apart.
But though, guys, it could also be, like, she could be an amazing wingman. Like, it could be a Riker thing. It could be where it's like, look, I don't want my own command. I want to be a commander. I flourish here. And there's... I don't know. I mean, what's great is we're asking these questions and where's Seth going to take us with them, right? That's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, and I've got to say that after this episode, I feel really confident about what Season 2 is going to feel like. Yeah. And I'm hoping that Fox sees that this show is worth the money that they're spending on it, and that 13 episodes got them some great numbers. What would 22 episodes do for them? It would be nice if they could get a full, like, network season order. My understanding is that the show is a little too expensive for them to want to do that, but it would be nice. This is definitely a team that could give you 20 good hours of television a year.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah.
And the production value is so great.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there are some beautiful sets on Discovery. Yes. But I must say, the sets on the Orville, mostly just the set for the Orville itself, because the Krill ship was cool, but not, like, immaculate in the way that the millions and millions of dollars that they put into the sarcophagus ship on Discovery was. Yeah. But, it was better than your average alien ship on Star Trek. Yeah. And so I'd like to think that they could afford to keep making these episodes. I mean, apparently Discovery's budget constraints really start to show in the second half from some people I know who've worked on the show. They spend a lot more time on the ship because they can't afford a whole bunch of other ships, and they blew up the sarcophagus. Computer?
Derek's saying that he'd like to see them borrow ideas from other sci-fi shows and not just Star Trek.
That would be pretty neat. That would be pretty neat to see a little bit more
Which ones would you like?
Well, now that they know Doctor Who exists, it would be pretty friggin' cool if they could borrow some Doctor Who moments.
That would be cool. That would be cool. And, again, if that is Jarrell kind of close, I'm just saying, the Kryptonian, that there's some interesting doors opening there.
Yeah.
That would be weird.
I'd like to also see a little bit of Babylon 5.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to see more politics and relationships between different species. We know that there's some kind of Cold War happening between the Krill and the humans. And the Krill ships have shown up a couple of times. We've seen some Krill, like, shooting at them. We had one episode on a Krill ship. But I want more of that. I would really like to delve into what this Cold War is, what it's about. Is it just the Krills being the aggressors, or did the humans do something they shouldn't have through the Union? Like, I would like to see a little bit more of that story explored.
Yeah. Or sorry.
All right, computer?
Well, earlier in the conversation, Derek had mentioned that this particular episode harks back to the episode about the Krill and how civilizations grow out of religion as they evolve.
Yes, and the idea that the Krill have somehow bucked that trend. That they are an intensely religious spacefaring race.
Yeah.
And that is very interesting because the Krill have either wiped out every other race on their planet that believes something else, or they've somehow unified under religion, which seems impossible.
Right.
Like, up until even this century, we've had different kinds of, like, Christians killing each other.
Yeah.
So if you can agree on the God, but not on how to worship the God, good luck when it comes to, like, that other guy that we think is the God, because that guy's not the God. But here we have a pantheon of 20 gods, and we take that God and add it to it, and then, like, there's just so many major religions on planet Earth that the only growing one that would help isn't a religion at all. The fact that atheism is growing in just about every corner of the world right now, that's, according to this show, our only hope at reaching the stars. And, you can compete to a certain extent. You can try to get to the moon and fight those people who have a different ideology than you, and you can both try to get to the moon, and one of you wins. But ultimately, we're going to go out into the stars as one people. And that's how we'll succeed. If we keep poking the bears, if we keep stoking the fires of hatred, we're stuck here. There's only two things humans can do: thrive or die. And religion doesn't help with the thriving thing.
You should also never poke animals. Any kind of animal.
Specifically bears.
Squirrels. Nobody. You will never
poke
gonna
a
reach the
raccoon.
stars if you poke animals, people.
Yeah, that's not the way to do it.
No.
So, people, is it time to figure out what trekked it, what wrecked it? Red alert, folks. This is our final red alert for the Orville.
No.
This is it. I mean, next we're going to be starting back up along with Discovery, talking about just Discovery and comparing it against other Star Treks. But
It's going to be very heavy.
yeah, it's going to be really interesting, I think, next season, dealing with, well, I guess, our next season, going into the winter, watching just Discovery. It's going to be weird.
Yeah.
But we're going to do it together. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be good.
So the last episode of the Orville, sort of, kind of, if we could just somehow watch that 13th episode. The last episode of the Orville. Trekked it? Wrecked it? What do you think?
Okay, I think, for me, absolutely pulls on that original Gene Roddenberry talk about incredible, timely, poignant themes that use science fiction as a backdrop. I saw a lot of the City on the Edge of Forever in there, a little bit of I loved the Voyager, the blink of an eye. I felt a little, is the Data the to thine own self and this next gen. There's a lot of little things that kind of made me feel that it was there in so many ways, and I just thought it was a great story. So for me, trekked it. Totally. Absolutely.
Sonia?
Yeah, so it was inventive. It was gorgeous to look at, and it was also the whole thing about cultural contamination and how we interact, and of course big issues like these were big ideas that were being dealt with, and that's so Roddenberry. So for me, I totally checked it.
Absolutely. Getting to watch, for me specifically, the 20th century style news being tossed at them. I mean, it was neat to watch what happened in the Bronze Age, what happened in the Dark Ages, and then as soon as they landed on us,
yeah,
Jesus, it was just such a stake to the heart of religion. And to me, Star Trek has always been so atheist in its belief that you need to believe in logic and science, and that's where the future of mankind is. If we can put aside our subjective private prejudice and move towards accepting objective, verifiable evidence, we've got a future. And I just felt like that jump between the 21st century and the 28th century was the most aspirational thing I've seen in so long.
I think like the way they phrase it too, because sometimes when I hear people talk about, you know, science and logic and atheism, it seems very finite and like we already know everything. And I think one of my favorite parts about this was that, again, be open to discovery. Have faith in it. We don't know everything.
Yeah.
Be open to the exploration and finding out all these wonderful, incredible things and how limitless we are.
Yeah, because nothing is less limited than the wonder of the universe. Like, you don't, like, humans making up creation myths are so limited. Our imagination from 2,000 years ago and from 3,000 years ago is really pretty lame.
But even the people who did have those imaginations, who were maybe clerics who, again, dreamt about the cosmos as it was now, or people who had like really, really more interesting ideas about like energy. Like Aquinas had some pretty cool ideas, and he was persecuted.
Yeah.
So let's not kill people with good ideas. Maybe be open to them.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
just because he thought, you know, the Greeks had sort of a silly creation myth. But it's no more silly than the creation myth that Christians have.
And imagine...
Just a different kind of silly.
What I also loved is like take a messianic, you know, parable and imagine if it was you and you went down and you helped somebody out and you were all of a sudden revered as a god and your name was being used in all kinds of the way that they did that and like really put you in there. It just made me feel so connected. It was just good writing. It was really good writing.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't the least bit subtle.
No.
And I don't think Star Trek is always subtle. Often it tells you exactly what it means. Black on the right side, black on the left side is not subtle.
Right.
It is in your face. And this episode was in your face about the things mankind is doing wrong. And Star Trek is great when it's preachy. That's what Star Trek's always been. Preachy. Preachy is all hell.
Yes, and the reestablishment of order in a very specific way, from a very specific angle.
Yeah, and aiming for that utopia and the ways it is likely to allow us to continue moving forward. Because utopia is impossible, but utopia is also stagnation. Like we'll never reach that, but it's the striving to reach that where we find the adventure and where we find the accomplishment and where we find the joy of being human together.
It's the evolution. That's it. Hopefully that never ends.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah, and hopefully, you know...
There's more seasons of Orville.
Yeah, hopefully there's more Orville. Absolutely. We're looking forward to the next season of Orville, and we are also very much looking forward to the second half of Discovery.
Yeah.
And so that is our season finale a little bit, because we're going to go into the holiday break, and when we come back, the festive Saturnalia tree will be down, and it'll be time to go back into Discovery.
So we'll be going the other way.
And they'll be running off that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll try and make it happen for you.
A whole new. Maybe we'll add some more figures. These are two of my favorites. I have more.
Maybe
Don't worry.
we should do a puppet show with them.
Puppet show. That would be an entertaining thing to get us to the break, right?
Yeah.
So we will see you guys soon. Enjoy your holidays. Enjoy your Christmas. Enjoy your Hanukkah. Enjoy your atheist or ancient Roman Saturnalia. Whatever it is you're doing. Have a safe and happy one. And we are looking forward to meeting up with you guys again to talk Discovery. Until then.